If you still remember that year's Oscar ceremony, then you probably can't forget the moment the entire room fell into complete silence as Will Smith stood up from his seat, walked straight onto the stage, and slapped Chris Rock in front of millions of people watching live around the world. It all happened so fast that almost no one had time to fully process what had just occurred. Yet in those brief seconds, the image Will Smith had carefully built over decades was instantly replaced by a single impression: a man who let his emotions slip out of control in public. What's worth noting is that many people understood why it happened. Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife in front of the entire audience, striking directly at the pride of a man and a husband. If that reaction had happened backstage, things might have unfolded very differently. But it didn't. It happened on stage, in front of cameras, in front of a crowd. And the world doesn't operate on personal empathy. It operates on the image you project when others are watching. The crowd didn't ask how deeply Will Smith was hurt. They only saw what he did. After that night, people stopped talking about his brilliant performances, his awards, or even his emotional acceptance speech. What lingered in public memory was that single moment of lost control. His career stalled, his reputation took a hit, and opportunities that once seemed guaranteed quietly disappeared, not because he lacked talent, but because he violated one unspoken rule of public life, letting raw emotion dictate action in front of an audience. If you're still watching this video right now, tell me where you're watching from: at home, on your way to work, or scrolling late at night before sleep? And more importantly, have you ever witnessed or even experienced a moment where one impulsive reaction in front of others suddenly made everything spiral out of control? Just leave a comment, because chances are you'll realize you're not the only one. The truth is, you don't need to be as famous as Will Smith to be judged. The moment you appear in front of others, every action you take is quietly building or destroying your position. Public spaces are not where you unload every emotion you feel. They are where you need to understand the rules of the game, understand human psychology, and know exactly what should never be done if you don't want to lower your own value. And in this video, we're going to talk about the things many people casually do every day in public: letting emotions explode, complaining about hardship, showing off excessively, or oversharing about themselves. Behaviors that quietly cause them to be looked down on, taken advantage of, or slowly pushed aside without them even realizing it. If you want to keep the respect of others and stand more firmly in any environment, what comes next is something you should listen to very carefully.
The older you get, and the more you collide with society, the more you begin to realize that people are rarely judged by what they say about themselves, but by what they unintentionally reveal when standing in front of a crowd. You can describe yourself as calm, kind, or strong-minded all you want, but one moment of losing control in public instantly makes all of that meaningless. Society doesn't remember explanations, it remembers images. The harsh reality is that a single small action, an impulsive reaction, or a careless sentence in public can be enough to destroy an image you spent years building. No one cares how hard you tried before or how much you endured. In the eyes of the crowd, you are not judged by the process, but by the moment they see you most clearly. And that moment rarely gives you a second chance. The crowd doesn't run on compassion either. They observe, compare, and quietly reach conclusions. When you appear weak, they don't reach out to pull you up. They step back to avoid being dragged down. When you expose a weakness, they may say nothing, but in their minds they have already placed you at a lower level. That's why behavior in public is always the harshest test of a person's value and position.
Remember this: never allow negative emotions to explode in front of others. Anger, panic, despair, all of these emotions are deeply human, but the moment they erupt in public, They stop being emotions and turn into live vulnerabilities. Because the instant you lose control of yourself, you send a very clear signal that you can be influenced, provoked, and led. And society is full of people who are very skilled at exploiting exactly that. When you lose emotional control in public, others don't see your pain, they see opportunity. They learn how to trigger your anger, how to unsettle you, how to push you into a disadvantage with just a few words or a deliberate provocation. Once someone knows where your emotional buttons are, you are no longer the one in control of the situation. Truly wise people are not those who lack emotion, but those who know how to hide it well. Inside, they may be angry, confused, or deeply hurt, yet their face remains calm, their words measured, their reactions slow and controlled. That calmness is not about appearing noble, it is about refusing to hand over control of yourself to anyone else. Many people mistakenly believe that complaining in public will earn them sympathy, but in reality, the opposite is true. Complaining doesn't make others feel more compassion for you, it quietly makes them look down on you more. When you repeatedly talk about your struggles in front of a crowd, you're not telling a story, you're defining yourself as someone weak. There's an unspoken rule in society that very few people say out loud. People don't help the weak, they help those with potential. Those who constantly complain about being poor, unlucky, or treated unfairly are rarely seen as victims, they're seen as risks. Others distance themselves not because you're a bad person, but because they're afraid of being pulled down by your negative energy. The more you talk about your hardships in public, the more you unknowingly label yourself as a loser. Even if you're actually trying very hard behind the scenes, the image you leave in others' minds is someone who lacks the strength to overcome difficulties on their own. And once that image is formed, it becomes extremely difficult to change, no matter how well you perform later on. If complaining makes you look weak, excessive bragging turns you into a target. When you constantly display your money, connections, or achievements in public, you don't create admiration the way you think you do. What you create instead is scrutiny, envy, and people quietly waiting for you to fail. The crowd doesn't like those who brag. They patiently wait to see them fall. Bragging does draw attention, but it's not positive attention. It places you under constant comparison, harsher judgment, and higher expectations for failure. The louder you talk about how successful you are, the more one single mistake will overshadow everything you've ever achieved. True power rarely needs to speak. People who genuinely hold status talk very little about what they have because they understand that value isn't about proving anything, it's about letting others figure it out on their own. Knowing when to stay silent doesn't make you invisible, it makes you unpredictable. And in society, being unpredictable is always an advantage. There's a habit many people fall into, especially when they start feeling ambitious or come up with a new direction, rushing to tell as many people as possible about their future plans, as if speaking them out loud will somehow make them more real. In truth, the more a plan is talked about, the weaker it becomes before it ever takes shape. When you talk about your plans in public, you're not just sharing ideas, you're opening the door to doubt, interference, and obstruction. Some people won't believe you can do it, others will try to sabotage you, and more subtle ones will quietly learn from you, adjust their approach, and move ahead of you. While you're still explaining and talking, they've already started acting. Truly strong people rarely talk much about what they're going to do. They understand that power lies in action, not promises. They move first, let results speak, and only explain when everything is already irreversible. In society, those who talk too much expose their intentions, while those who go far usually move in silence. The next point is an interesting one, and it's something many people fall into without realizing it, putting others down to lift themselves up. In public spaces, there's no shortage of people who think mocking, criticizing, or belittling others will make them seem smarter or more impressive, but it's a trap that's easy to fall into. Every time you attack someone in front of a crowd, what you reveal isn't superiority, but your own insecurity. Refined, self-assured people don't need to step on others to stand taller. They understand that real value doesn't come from making others smaller, but from being solid enough that comparison is unnecessary. When you have to pull someone else down to feel higher, it only shows that the ground you're standing on is fragile. And don't forget one crucial thing. The crowd almost always sides with the person being attacked, especially when you go too far. The moment you show bitterness or lose control, people quickly stop caring about whether you were right or wrong and only remember that you were the one who hurt someone in front of everyone. This is a psychological trap many of us fall into, and I want to remind you of one thing very clearly. Never show that you desperately need validation. There is a certain kind of weakness that's easy to recognize when someone constantly tries to prove that they are liked, approved of, or noticed. They talk too much, perform too much, react strongly to praise, and collapse quickly when they are ignored. The desire for attention doesn't make you more important. It only reveals a lack of confidence in your own value. The more someone tries to be liked, the easier they are to manipulate. When you depend on external validation, anyone who understands that can guide your behavior with just a few compliments or a calculated silence. You begin living to please others, and from that moment on, you lose control of your own position. The truth is, real attraction doesn't come from trying to satisfy everyone. It comes from calmness, from not needing to prove yourself, from not reacting to every glance or opinion. Someone who can stand firmly in silence often earns far more curiosity and respect than someone who relies on endless flattery. Many people see sharing their personal life in public as a way to connect and feel closer to others. But they don't realize that every personal detail you reveal can become a weapon in the wrong hands. In society, information is never neutral. When others know too much about you, they gain an advantage. They know what you fear, where you're vulnerable, and what easily hurts you. What you share today out of trust can become the very thing that puts you at a disadvantage tomorrow. Not everyone who listens has bad intentions, but it only takes one person who knows how to exploit that information for you to lose leverage. That's why mystery has always gone hand in hand with power. When people can't fully read you, they're forced to be more cautious. You don't need to hide everything, but you must know what should remain private. In many situations, saying less isn't about lacking stories. It's about understanding the value of silence. Many people see sharing their personal life in public as a way to connect and feel closer to others. But they don't realize that every personal detail you reveal can become a weapon in the wrong hands. In society, information is never neutral. When others know too much about you, they gain an advantage. They know what you fear, where you're vulnerable, and what easily hurts you. What you share today out of trust can become the very thing that puts you at a disadvantage tomorrow. Not everyone who listens has bad intentions, but it only takes one person who knows how to exploit that information for you to lose leverage. That's why mystery has always gone hand in hand with power. When people can't fully read you, they're forced to be more cautious. You don't need to hide everything, but you must know what should remain private. In many situations, saying less isn't about lacking stories. It's about understanding the value of silence. Finally, there's one truth that's hard to deny. Wise people always know how to play the right role in public. If you pay close attention, you'll notice something interesting. Society doesn't operate on who is better or who is right, but on who controls their image best when others are watching. Public spaces are not where you unload every emotion, speak every thought, or display everything you have. They are stage, where even the smallest action is magnified and remembered far longer than you expect. Those who go far in society don't do so because they're fake, but because they understand the rules of the game. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know which emotions to keep inside, which information not to share, and which reactions can destroy their position in just a few seconds. They aren't perfect, but they are highly disciplined when standing in front of others. What matters most isn't becoming someone else, but understanding that not every version of you should appear everywhere. Some thoughts are meant to stay private, some emotions should only be processed in safe, personal spaces, and some battles are won precisely by choosing not to fight at all. If you've made it to the final seconds of this video, ask yourself one simple question. How many times have you lost leverage, lost respect, or felt others start to look down on you because of a small public action you once thought was no big deal? The answer might force you to rethink a lot. If this video felt familiar or helped you realize where you might have gone wrong before, let me know by commenting 1 below. And if you want to go deeper into human psychology, hidden power, and how to maintain your position in society, comment yes so we can make the next video for you. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future content on dark psychology, where we'll take you deeper into the dark. See you in the next video.